Unbelievable. For more than 4 decades, Canada followed the same path. When it came to fighter jets, the answer was always American. No drama, no surprises, just alignment. And then something shifted. In early 2025, whispers started turning into headlines. Ottawa wasn't just adjusting numbers. It wasn't negotiating minor terms. It was reviewing the entire fighter jet deal. And suddenly, Washington wasn't calm anymore. Because this isn't just about replacing aircraft. It's about control. And the Pentagon knows exactly what's at stake. But to understand why this decision hit so hard, we have to rewind. After nearly a decade of debate, Canada finally chose the F-35 Lightning II. Manufactured by Lockheed Martin, the F-35 was marketed as the future of Western air, dominance, stealth, advanced sensors, seamless NATO integration, 88 aircraft, 19 billion Canadian dollars. On paper, everything looked settled. The Pentagon breathed easy. Another ally locked in for decades. Another integrated fleet secured. But then reality hit. Canada's Auditor General released a report that shook confidence. The projected cost wasn't 19 billion anymore. It was closer to 27.7 billion, a 46% increase. Delivery timelines were slipping. Globally, the F-35's mission-ready rate hovered around levels critics called concerning. Inside Canada, questions grew louder. Was this really the right move? And then politics poured gasoline on the fire. After the U.S. election cycle intensified tensions, trade threats and tariff rhetoric resurfaced. Comments about Canada's economic dependence triggered public debate. Canadian lawmakers began asking an uncomfortable question. Why are we tying our national defense to a partner we're increasingly clashing with economically? And that's when the unthinkable happened. The deal was officially put under review. But cost wasn't the real issue. Something deeper was brewing. The F-35 isn't just a fighter jet, it's an ecosystem. Every aircraft is connected to a centralized data and logistics system. Maintenance diagnostics, mission data updates, software patches. They all flow through American control channels. That means upgrades, approved through U.S. systems. Weapon integrations, coordinated through U.S. frameworks. Deep repairs, dependent on certified networks. Supporters call this efficiency. Critics call it dependency. Now contrast that with Sweden's offer. The Saab JAS-39 Gripen E, built by Saab, comes with something radical. Potential full software source code transfer. That means Canada could modify systems independently, integrate weapons without external approval, develop domestic upgrades, maintain aircraft without routing every request south of the border. That's not a small technical detail. That's sovereignty. And if Canada embraces that model, the signal it sends goes far beyond aircraft performance. But this is where things become even more sensitive. Because air defense in North America isn't just about jets. It's about unity. For 65 years, North American air defense has operated under one shared framework, NORAD. One radar picture, one synchronized system, one command architecture linking Canada and the United States. The F-35 was designed to slide perfectly into that system. Data sharing is seamless. Interoperability is immediate. But introducing a mixed fleet complicates things. Different maintenance chains, different operational doctrines, different upgrade timelines. Technically, integration is possible. NATO standards allow flexibility. But operational simplicity disappears. And here's the quiet concern. When systems diverge, influence shifts. If Canada operates aircraft with independent software control, an alternative, European data partnerships, the balance inside NORAD subtly changes. It's no longer automatic alignment. It becomes negotiation. And Washington has never had to negotiate air defense, authority inside its own hemisphere before. But even that isn't the deepest tension. The real battleground lies further north. Most people don't think about the Arctic. The Pentagon does. Canada controls roughly 40% of the Arctic coastline. As global temperatures rise, new sea routes are emerging. Natural resources beneath the ice are becoming accessible. Military positioning is accelerating. Russia has expanded Arctic infrastructure dramatically. China has labeled itself a near-Arctic state and increased regional investment. For the United States, the Arctic is missile defense territory. Early warning systems, interceptor coverage, strategic dominance. Now imagine this scenario. If Canada flies F-35s, Arctic patrol data feeds directly into American-managed systems. Full visibility, full synchronization. But if Canada flies Gripen E, aircraft equipped with Swedish radar and electronic warfare systems, data pathways diversify. Intelligence sharing could involve Stockholm as well as Washington. That doesn't mean hostility, but it does mean shared influence. And for a region the U.S. views as its strategic backyard, shared influence feels uncomfortable. This isn't about trust. It's about leverage. And leverage is power. Still, even geopolitics doesn't fully explain the reaction. Money does. Canceling the remaining jets could impact billions in projected contracts for Lockheed Martin. But the ripple effects hit Canada too. Over 100 Canadian firms participate in the F-35 supply chain. Companies like Pratt & Whitney, Canada, and other aerospace suppliers benefit from long-term integration. Walking away risks those relationships. But Sweden's proposal flips the script. Saab has floated the idea of transferring full production capability to Canada, partnering with domestic giants like Bombardier, creating thousands of high-skilled jobs, potentially turning Canada into a manufacturing hub, assembly versus ownership, participation versus control. That's the core contrast. And when economics meets sovereignty, decisions become emotional. But here's the part that keeps defense planners awake. This decision doesn't stop at Canada's borders. The F-35 program includes more than a dozen allied nations. It's not just a fighter, it's a network. If Canada, one of America's closest allies, publicly pivots away after signing on, what message does that send? Other countries are constantly reviewing defense budgets. Some are evaluating alternatives from Europe or Asia. If Canada demonstrates that diversification is possible, confidence in exploring alternatives grows. Not necessarily rejection, but competition. And the global fighter market thrives on perception. Perception shapes procurement. Procurement shapes influence. This is why the reaction feels intense. It's not about losing one contract. It's about losing the assumption of automatic alignment. And then there's the aircraft itself. Because despite all the politics, performance matters. The Gripen E isn't marketed as a stealth superstar. It doesn't dominate headlines with fifth-generation buzzwords. Instead, it emphasizes practicality, lower operating costs per flight hour compared to most stealth platforms, designed for cold weather resilience, capable of operating from shorter runways, a major advantage in remote regions. Maintenance turnaround is faster. Modular systems allow quick servicing in austere conditions. For Arctic operations, that matters. Range, flexibility, and rapid repair can outweigh stealth in certain missions. Sweden built the Gripen for survival in harsh northern climates. Sound familiar? Canada's geography mirrors that environment closely. None of this makes the F-35 inferior, but it does create a real strategic debate. High-end stealth dominance versus agile sovereignty. Integrated network versus modular independence. And that debate has reached a boiling point. Canada now faces a defining choice. Continue deep integration with American defense architecture. Efficient, powerful, tightly connected, or pursue greater autonomy, diversified partnerships, independent upgrades, domestic industrial control. Neither path is simple. Neither path is risk-free. But the fact that the question is being asked at all is what changes everything. For 40 years, alignment was automatic. Now it's conditional. And that shift alone signals a new era. Because in geopolitics, the most powerful move isn't always the loudest one. Sometimes it's simply reconsidering your options. The Pentagon understands that, which is why this review feels bigger than a procurement debate. It feels like the beginning of a rebalancing, and the world is watching closely. Because if Canada redefines its defense independence, who follows next?